Pause for a moment. Do not scroll away yet, because your silence is having a much bigger effect than you realize. While you have been protecting your peace and pulling your energy back, someone has been feeling that distance in a way they never expected. On the outside, they may appear calm. They may smile, go through their daily routine, and act like everything is fine. But deep inside, something has started to shift. If you have been feeling unusual emotions, thinking about someone for no clear reason, or sensing that something is changing beneath the surface, stay with this message. It may help explain the feelings that have been difficult to understand. What is happening now is not small. It is not meaningless, and it is far from over. Your silence has become stronger than any conversation ever could. Your absence has created a space that forces someone connected to you to see things they avoided before. They are beginning to notice truths they pushed aside. They are starting to understand feelings they kept buried for much longer than they should have. Keep listening, because what comes next may explain the strange dreams, the emotional tension, the repeated signs, and the growing feeling that something important is about to happen. Lately, you have become quieter than before. Whether you did it on purpose or simply because you needed peace, they noticed. Even if you believe they are not paying attention, they are. They feel the distance. They feel the empty space. Most of all, they feel the silence echoing through their heart in a way no disagreement ever could. That silence has created emotional pressure they cannot easily explain. It is not only about missing conversations with you. It goes much deeper than that. Your silence has become a reflection. It is showing them the parts of themselves they spent a long time hiding. It is bringing old emotions back into the light. It is making them face truths they continued delaying. For a long time, they believed they could simply wait things out. They believed time would make these emotions disappear. They believed distance would weaken the connection. Instead, the opposite has happened. The calmer you have become, the more restless they feel inside. The more you protect your own peace, the more they are forced to face the chaos within themselves. If you have been asking yourself whether your absence truly matters, listen closely. It matters far more than you think. The feeling stays with them throughout the day. It follows them into quiet moments. It appears when they least expect it. Simple memories suddenly become impossible to ignore. They remember your voice. They replay conversations. They think about moments they once dismissed without giving them much importance. This is where everything begins to change. Something inside them has started waking up because of the silence between you. That is why they have seemed distracted lately. They may appear restless, unfocused, or emotionally unsettled. They might never admit it aloud. They may even struggle to admit it to themselves. But deep inside, they know your energy has changed, and that change has shaken something loose within them. Small reminders seem to appear everywhere. Certain numbers repeat. Unexpected dreams leave them thinking long after they wake up. Old memories return with surprising strength. A familiar song suddenly plays. Your name enters their thoughts. While they are trying to concentrate on something completely different, they may convince themselves these things mean nothing. Still, their heart feels every reminder. Your silence did not weaken the connection, it awakened it. It brought hidden emotions to the surface. It cracked open walls they spent years building around themselves. That is why they feel emotionally exposed right now. Things that once distracted them no longer work the same way. They find themselves checking their phone without thinking. They walk around the room trying to settle their mind. They replay old conversations again and again. Waves of emotion appear without warning, and they cannot explain why. This is not a passing feeling. This is not something easy to ignore. It is the kind of emotional storm that makes someone question everything they believed they understood. If your intuition has been telling you that something is changing behind the scenes, trust that feeling. Something is moving. Something is pushing them toward a decision they have avoided for a long time. They are beginning to realize they could lose something they are not ready to lose. That realization alone has created fear. For a long time, they stayed trapped in pride, uncertainty, hesitation, or fear. Those emotions kept them from taking action. Now, your silence has made it much harder for them to escape the truth. They keep asking themselves difficult questions. Why did they wait? Why did they keep their distance? Why did they act as though there would always be more time? Why did fear become stronger than what they truly felt? Why did they fail to appreciate your value while you were still close? Those questions continue growing louder every day. The hardest part is that deep down they already know many of the answers. They know their feelings were stronger than they admitted. They know they cared more than they ever showed. They know your presence brought something unique into their life. Now that your energy is no longer reaching toward them the way it once did, they are finally feeling the weight of what they almost allowed themselves to lose. If these words connect with you, stay with this message, because the next part matters even more. They are no longer simply thinking about you. They are imagining taking action. They picture sending a message. They imagine finally telling you the truth. They think about reaching out in a way they never have before. Again and again, they rehearse those moments inside their mind. They gather courage. Then fear returns. They stop themselves. Then they begin all over again. But the emotional pressure continues growing. Pressure like this cannot remain hidden forever. Your silence has become the loudest sound in their world. They wake up thinking about it. They carry it through the day. It follows them into the quiet hours of the night. Even when surrounded by other people, they cannot completely escape it. To everyone else, they may seem perfectly normal. They wear a calm expression. They continue their responsibilities. They smile when expected. Inside, everything feels different. Their emotions keep changing in ways they cannot fully control. Sometimes they reread old messages. Sometimes they remember little moments that once felt ordinary, but now seem deeply meaningful. Sometimes they wonder what would happen if they finally opened their heart. Would you answer kindly? Would you remain distant? Have you already moved forward with your life? Those questions circle through their thoughts over and over again. The more they think about them, the stronger the pressure becomes to act before the opportunity disappears. That is why your own energy may have felt different lately. That is why unexpected emotions may appear without warning. That is why this person may suddenly enter your thoughts, even when you were focused on something else. Something is changing beneath the surface. The connection itself is shifting. Nothing may be visible yet, but something continues building quietly in the background. Stay with this, because the next stage explains why they are closer than ever to breaking their silence. They have reached the point where pretending feels harder than telling the truth. The people around them have started noticing that something is different. A close friend, a family member, someone who knows them well enough to recognize that they are carrying something heavy inside. Sooner or later, someone asked the question they had been hoping would never come. They are beginning to imagine what it would truly feel like to come back toward you with complete honesty, not with half-hearted effort, not with mixed signals, and not with casual conversations that hide what they truly feel. They are beginning to imagine what it would be like to finally speak honestly. That thought brings both hope and fear at the same time. Because once the truth is spoken, nothing remains the same. Truth makes everything real. It removes every excuse they have been hiding behind. It asks them to admit what they have been avoiding for so long. It asks them to admit they were afraid. It asks them to admit they made mistakes. It asks them to admit they felt emotions they did not know how to handle. It asks them to admit that losing you became a possibility they never wanted to face. Even with all that fear, the idea refuses to disappear. Instead, it grows a little stronger each day. They keep imagining themselves reaching for their phone. They picture themselves typing your name. They imagine writing a message over and over again. They picture themselves deleting it, starting again, then reading every word before wondering if they should finally press send. They imagine hearing your voice again after all this silence. They imagine finally saying everything they buried deep inside. They imagine the relief that honesty might bring. They imagine the fear of not knowing how you will respond. They imagine hope. They imagine uncertainty. They imagine another chance. All of those emotions exist together inside them, making it harder to ignore what their heart has been trying to say for a very long time. If you have been feeling a strange pressure in your own spirit lately, there may be a reason for it. When someone keeps fighting against what their own heart already knows, the emotional weight does not disappear. It continues to grow. Every day they remain silent, that pressure becomes heavier. Every day they pretend everything is fine. It becomes more difficult to keep pretending. Your silence has changed everything. Before, they always believed they had more time. They believed you would still be there whenever they finally decided to figure things out. They became comfortable with that belief. Without even realizing it, they depended on your patience. But now that comfort has disappeared. Your silence broke the old pattern. It stopped giving them the reassurance that they could wait forever. Now they are standing alone with their own emotions. There is no distraction strong enough, no excuse convincing enough, and no comfort left to protect them from the truth. That is why they are being forced to face feelings they kept pushing aside. And that process is changing them from the inside. Stay with this feeling because something important is happening beneath the surface. Little by little, they are reaching the point where the fear of losing you becomes greater than the fear of being vulnerable. That moment changes everything. Once someone crosses that emotional line, they stop protecting their pride so fiercely. They stop running away from conversations they once avoided. They stop convincing themselves that silence is easier. Instead, they begin searching for a way forward. That shift can happen much faster than anyone expects. There are moments now when emotions hit them without warning. Sometimes they cannot even explain why. Their chest suddenly feels tight. Their thoughts become restless. Their mood changes in the middle of an ordinary day. A memory appears out of nowhere with surprising strength. At night, they may lie down expecting to fall asleep, only to find themselves thinking about you instead. Your face appears clearly in their mind. They remember the smallest details, the way you smiled, the sound of your voice, the way you listened, and the comfort they felt without fully appreciating it at the time. Sometimes they hear a phrase that reminds them of you. Sometimes they notice your initials somewhere completely unexpected. Sometimes your name quietly crosses their mind without any clear reason. Before they even realize it, they have softly whispered your name to themselves. These moments are becoming more frequent. They cannot explain them away anymore. The connection has settled into places inside them that they can no longer ignore. The harder they try to appear unaffected, the heavier everything feels. This is no longer only about missing someone. It has become something much deeper. They are also facing regret. They regret waiting so long. They regret doubting something that deserved trust. They regret protecting themselves instead of opening their heart. They regret allowing fear to speak louder than love. They regret believing there would always be another opportunity. That regret hurts. But it is also changing them. It is breaking down walls that once seemed impossible to move. It is softening parts of them that stayed guarded for far too long. It is teaching humility where pride once stood. It is helping them understand things they refused to see before. They are beginning to realize that your silence was never about punishment. It was never about trying to make them suffer. It was never about revenge. Your silence became an act of self-respect. It became part of your healing. It became the moment when your heart finally stopped carrying the entire relationship by itself. You reached the point where you could no longer keep giving endlessly while receiving uncertainty in return. That realization is changing how they see the past. They understand now that what disappeared was not your love. Your love was real. What changed was your availability. What changed was your willingness to keep chasing someone who could not meet you where you stood. You stopped giving unlimited access to your energy. You stopped carrying responsibilities that were never yours alone. Now they feel the space you left behind. They understand what your presence truly meant because they are finally living without it. That lesson is impossible to ignore. Life itself seems to be removing one distraction after another. Attention from other people no longer feels satisfying. Conversations that stay on the surface leave them feeling empty. Emotional games that once seemed exciting now feel exhausting. Old habits that helped them avoid their emotions are slowly losing their power. None of this feels accidental anymore. Everything seems to be guiding them inward. Everything seems to be asking them to slow down and reflect. Everything seems to be pointing them toward the truth they have been trying to avoid. That truth is becoming impossible to silence. Every single day, the voice inside them grows louder. Every single day, the distance feels heavier. Every single day, they become more aware that waiting forever may cost them the very person they never truly wanted to lose. That thought stays with them much longer than they expected. The idea of losing you completely no longer feels like something distant. It feels possible. It feels real. And that realization reaches deeper into their heart every single day. What affects them even more is the thought that someone else could recognize your value before they find the courage to do what should have been done long ago. They picture another person appreciating your kindness. They picture someone making you laugh. They picture someone offering the consistency you waited for. They picture someone protecting your heart instead of leaving it full of questions. That image is difficult for them to face. It stirs emotions they have tried to keep buried. It awakens a sense of urgency that they can no longer ignore. It forces them to admit that what they feel is much deeper than simple attachment. It is love that has been hidden behind fear. It is affection that remained silent because they believed they had endless time. Now they understand that time keeps moving, whether people are ready or not. That awareness is slowly encouraging them to take action. So if you have been feeling that something is changing beneath the surface, trust that feeling. Sometimes the deepest transformations begin long before they become visible.